Hello friends and welcome to Smart Coach. Today we are talking about the unification of Italy. Now, the unification of Italy and the unification of Germany falls under the same period of nationalistic upheavals in Europe. All right, the unification of Prussia with the other German states and the coming up of Germany and the unification of Italy belongs to this around about the same time. All right, they emerge as nations in the same time framework, and we have also to understand that politically also their paths cross. All right, because in the later stages when Prussia declares war against Austria, you see Italy also unites with Prussia in order to oust the influence of Austria on certain Italian states. Okay, so all of this we are going to discuss in today's video. However, our video is going to be in two parts because it is a long topic and we'll have to subdivide it. So in the first part we will look at the background of Italy. We will also look at the causes behind the rise of a drive for unification, and then of course in the second part we will talk about the actual sequence of events. Okay, so let us dive in part 1. As I already specified, we are going to first look into the background. As far as the background is concerned, Italy at this point of time is fragmented into 9 principal states. Okay, now we will also have to remember that upon the 9 states of Italy, the nine biggest states of Italy, there are influences of mainland European states. Okay, so talking about European states, there are influences of Austria over certain areas in Italy. There is influence of France over certain areas in Italy, and then of course there is the Pope in the central portion of Italy with influence or with his state centered upon Rome, and then certain other states in the vicinity of Rome. Okay, so the Pope controls Rome and states in the vicinity of Rome. Then Austria has influence over such cities as Modena, Parma and Tuscany. Okay, however, Austria directly controls Lombardy and Venetia. Okay, so these are the two states which Austria directly controls, and on top of that, the French influence extends over the southern portion of Italy. This is the northern portion of Italy. Okay, so in the southern portion of Italy, especially in Sicily and Naples, the Bourbon dynasty of France has control. Okay, the Bourbon dynasty of France has control over Sicily and Naples, which are in the southern portion of Italy. And as for the center, we have already talked about the papal state or the state of the Pope, okay, centered around Rome. So there are influences of, there are spheres of influences for the European powers in all across Italy, all right. And now, because of this and because of the reactionary and conservative nature of these states, and unification has become difficult, all right, because all of these states and all of these influential powers, they do not want to unite. They don't want to remain united. Instead, they are fighting against each other all of the times, and they are they are in collision course all of the time, and there is no sense of an united front when it comes to Italy. However, it is only in the 19th century that we will see that a drive for unification of Italy emerges, all right, and this is mainly because of one particular cause. Okay, so if we are discussing the cause for the unification of Italy, the number one cause here of course is the French Revolution. See, the French Revolution gave birth to all of these tendencies for nationalistic spirit to come up, because the ideals that were stressed in the French Revolution were the ideals upon which nationalism in Europe was based. Okay, so ideals such as liberty, equality and fraternity, which of course you as students studying for PCS exams, you are quite well acquainted with. Okay, fraternity. So these kind of ideals came out, were birthed during the French Revolution, and then going forward we see that these ideals, they coalesce into one political motivation, and the political motivation out here is republicanism, democracy, and of course self-determination. So these ideals are born out of the French Revolution, but of course, French Revolution was contained within France. Okay, these ideals were born in France. How do they spread outside? The answer is simple: the Napoleonic Wars. Okay, the wars that Napoleon fought against the European powers, and in the course of which Napoleon spread out the empire of France all over Europe. And in this spreading out of the empire of France, it also spread in Italy. Italy also came under the Napoleonic rule, and because of the Napoleonic rule, for a brief period, of course, Italy was united, and it got a united structure of administration, a legal code, and it also got a united idea of what it means to be born out of a revolution. Okay, it got an idea of the French Revolution, the causes for which the French people fought in this revolution, and therefore we see that out of the Napoleonic Wars and the French Revolution, these ideas were born, and therefore it is not very far-fetched to see that a movement within Italy started to grow, okay, out in the early part of the 19th century, somewhere in the 1810s and 1820s, the Risorgimento movement. Okay, it took ground in Italy, which was supported by a militia of its own. If we're talking about militia, what is a militia? Militia is not an army. It is a ragtag group of people who are armed. Okay, it is not an army institutionalized by a state, but by people who have come together for a cause and they are willing to fight. Okay, this is known as a militia. So the Risorgimento has its own militia, the Carbonari. Okay, Carbonari. Okay, and this movement had started in Italy in the early part of the 19th century, and it is in this movement, it is through this movement that we see the first drives towards unification of Italy. So while talking about the background, this is the background for the unification of Italy. This is what's going on at the eve of the unification of Italy when the process begins. Of course, how is Italy going to be united? There are certain answers. Number one, it can either be a republic, or it can be a constitutional monarchy under one monarch, of course. And it can then also be a federation. If we are talking about republic, it is a republican form of government with a constitution, with democracy as the principle. Okay, this is one way in which Italy can get united. If we are talking about constitutional monarchy, out of all of the 9 states, one state will have to take the lead, and this, in the case of Italy, just like in the case of Germany it was Prussia, in the case of Italy the state can only be Sardinia. Okay, Sardinia is the principal state. Okay, Piedmont, Sardinia, the state which has the power, which has the military capacity and the political influence in order to be the leader of this Italian unification. Now apart from that, proposal for a federation was also present under the Pope. Okay, where Italian states will unite as a single force, as a single federation, which will of course be a weak form of coming together under the Pope. Okay, so these were the options present on the eve of the drive for Italian unification, on the eve on the movement for Italian unification. Now when we are talking about the unification of Italy, 3 people become very important. In the very first phase, it is Giuseppe Mazzini, then we see Count Cavour, and then we see Giuseppe Garibaldi. Okay, now it is under the leadership of these 3 principal characters that we see that Italy unites, and then this is the course, and this is the sequence of events through which Italy unites. Okay, now this is what is going to be discussed in the second part of our video. So I hope you continue watching our video.